Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Vikings Uncovered. Hi, all you Vikings fans. How you doing today? We're going to get into it just like we have every week. We're going to talk about the team. We're going to talk about the matchup. But first off, Vikings are 7-2. Got that another win. Moving on forward. Things may be looking kind of cloudy. I know, but we're going to get into it. I'm still optimistic as hell. But yes, so they won last week, 12-7. Obviously, not a high-scoring game, like I kind of thought it would be. Closer game, like I didn't think it would be. But the key there was the defense was obnoxiously good again. Keeping that blitz rate up, knocking down passes, not letting people get open. I mean, all right, let's just the elephant in the room. Okay, Darnold was credited for 3 interceptions, but that's not fair. First interception, not his fault. That was just not caught by the receiver. It bounced up in the air, came down with it. So 50% blame on him at most. Second interception was not an interception. They blew that call on the replay. It happens. Third one, 100% Darnold's fault. His pass percentage was down a little bit. It's a bump in the road. We're not going to worry about it. The defense is still going off on all cylinders. Like I said, that pressure rate is still up there. Still first in the league in the blitz percentage. Just wreaking havoc at the offensive line and limiting time for the quarterbacks to get open, to move around, to let something open up downfield. It's what the defense is doing to be successful. It's what they're going to continue to do and continue to be successful at. 13 different players had at least a 40% snap count, which sounds good. It's not really because of the fact that the time of possession was so out of whack. Vikings had the ball for more than 42 minutes of that game with just under 18 minutes for the opposition. It's just further controlling that the defense has on their offensive opponents. The offense couldn't move the ball. Obviously, they got downfield and scored 1 touchdown. And then after that, it was absolutely nothing. It was just garbage. Mac Jones completed 14 attempts. And it wasn't for the lack of trying. They had 20-some attempts, and they just didn't have the ball enough. If your team doesn't have the ball on offense, you're not going to score points. So regardless of how many opportunities or how many points the defense or the Vikings score, the other team's not scoring enough because they're not getting enough chance to do so. So sure, we're going to have some of these lower point totals here and there. That's fine. A win is a win. 4 different Vikings players had 5 tackles, so no clear leader in the tackles. No leader at all this week, as I said. 4 different players had 5. The team had 3 sacks. They had 2 interceptions on defense, forced a fumble, and 8 TFLs, tackles for losses. Just the guys like Pace and Gink and Cashman are just ripping it up all over the place. Actually, each of them, Pace had 5 tackles. Cashman had 5 tackles. Gink had a sack and 2 TFL. Murphy had another interception. Second game in a row for him, Byron Murphy, to have an interception. He's become more confident in the passing game, in the pass defense. He's taking advantage of opportunities, getting a hand in there, picking off the ball, everything he needs to do. It's led to less playing time for Shaq Griffin, which is okay. It just gives more rest. I mean, granted, now it's Murphy is totally taken over the snap count on that side of the ball as opposed to Griffin. Harrison Phillips picked up a fumble. It was an overall solid, great game on defense. I could go on and on and on, but I don't want to drone on and bore people with defensive stuff. I want to get to everything else too. That Pace had 2 of those sacks in that game as well. But we've got more evidence here that having Blake Cashman on the field in pretty much any capacity, just having him available, changes how the defense operates. He's much more elite general on the field. He's the guy with the green dot on the back of his helmet. So he gets the play calls from the defensive coordinator, and from B-Flow. He relays them to the team. He calls audibles. He makes sure people know if, like, all right, there's something going over here. Oh, there's a motion man. Oh, we got 2 tight ends on the end. Something like that. His leadership and his playmaking ability is absolutely vital for the continued success of this team on defense. And I'm excited for it. I say I'm excited about somebody every week. I know. But I am. Love the Vikings. Absolutely love the Vikings. Offensive side of the ball, I'm not going to lie, I did not get a chance to check into any of the press conferences, any KOC's press conferences this week. I was busy. I was celebrating my anniversary this week, so apologize for that. So let's just get into the good stuff, into the player stuff. The Vikings only gave up 1 sack last week. The 5 guys in the front did their job successfully for almost the entire game. It was great. It was great. Cam Robinson's fitting in well, meshing with the rest of the guys. Brandel and Ingram solidified their spots, just, plugging up holes, picking up guys who break off or come around or whatever. It's good to see. Sam Darnold, the 3 interceptions, 24 completions on 38 attempts, so the percentage efficiency was down a little bit. 241 yards, no scores. It's a down week. The Colts defense played a little bit better the Jags defense played a little better than I've given them credit for. Which is fine. They're playing their butts off, and Darnold didn't put his best foot forward. I'm not worried about it. Darnold just needs to go out there and do his thing, lead the team, call plays, throw passes. He doesn't need to be a savior. He doesn't need to throw multiple touchdowns every week. Running the ball, the running backs. Aaron Jones, 17 carries for 88 yards, 2 catches for 23 yards, so another nice 111-yard day for him. Akers, 13 carries for 38 and a 9 interception. He got a few extra carries in this game because Jones did come off the field for a period of time. That also allowed Chandler to take 4 carries for 18 yards, so looked efficient. But again, it was the fact that the Vikings held on to the ball so much. A lot of it was the running game. As you heard those numbers, we were successful on the ground. Didn't get into the end zone, unfortunately, but I'm not going to complain. But also what that also says to us, should Aaron Jones miss any significant time, obviously Cam Akers is the primary secondary back. He will step into the primary role, and Ty Chandler will get a slice of the opportunities when that happens. So it's not going to turn into Aaron Jones gets 90% of the carries most weeks, and then the rest are scraps for everybody else. So it's probably going to be more of a 65-35, 70-30% kind of ratio between Akers and Chandler. Should anything happen, I'm not worried about it. He's looked strong all year. And he's been putting up good numbers in every game. Pretty much every game. And Akers looks good as well. He commanded a couple of those drives for the most part. There was that long, 17-play drive that ended prematurely. It wasn't anything that many plays on a drive. Yeah, they did take him out and put Jones in for the last few plays of the drive, but he started the drive. I think he was in for the first 9 or 10 plays of it. But I like where the running back room is at for the Vikings. The wide receivers, a little bit different than usual. We still had the 9 targets to JJ. He only caught 5 of them for 48 yards. They kind of sold out trying to keep him from getting the ball. And, Darnold was trying to force it into him a few times, and that's where those 3 interceptions came from. They were all passes to Jefferson. Addison had 2 catches on 5 targets. I like the target number. You gotta catch more passes. Please, Jordan, please catch more passes than just 2. Naylor and Sherfield each had a catch. They were each an 11-yard catch. So not a lot of work in the wide receiver room overall. That's fine. Part of that is because of what the tight ends did. I mean, T.J. Hawkinson, welcome back. 9 targets, 8 catches, 72 yards. Josh Oliver, 6 targets, 4 catches, 52 yards. This might be a normal thing. If teams are going to sell out on Jefferson and Addison on the ends, on the outside, you got Hawkinson and Oliver who are clearly capable. Yeah, the two of them totaled 124 yards on 12 catches, which, yeah, not a huge lot of numbers, but that's not what tight ends do. They're doing exactly what we need them to do. I think there was like 3 third downs in a row where the Vikings were driving and threw it to Hawkinson, for 8 yards when he needed 7, and it was a first down. That's what we need from Jefferson, or from Hawkinson and from Oliver. And Hawkinson's a fine blocker, and Oliver's a great blocker, and we're going to see those two on the field all the time. It's how the game's going to work, and it's going to force teams to have to respect the pass a little bit more. They're not going to be able to sell out on Jefferson or Addison every single play, because if they do, Vikings are just going to get a first down, and we'll just do those 12, 13, 14 plus play drives that just eat up minutes and minutes on the clock. It's totally different game than we were playing at the beginning of the year when we were scoring 30 points and limiting the other team to 20, 24. So just everything has done a complete 180. We're less reliant on the pass. We're more successful with the run. The tight ends make everything come together. It's just really fun to watch. It's something special to see a team be able to do a 180 on their offensive scheme and make it work. So much fun. All right. Special teams. John Parker Romo comes right in where Reichert left off, hits all 4 of his field goals. Longest one of 45 yards. Apparently, at some point during practice this last week, I'll say, he made a 73-yarder on a windy day out here in Minnesota. I mean, cool. I think it was in Minnesota, but wherever it was a windy day. I saw the video. It was like 73 yards out, and he hit it. Don't expect that in a game. He's kicking the ball with nobody trying to block him, nobody hurrying him. But, I'd say he's got a similar leg distance as Reichert, so it doesn't matter who the kicker is. Any kicker who's decent, any NFL capable kicker is going to have success in this offense, because in those cases where a drive fizzles out before we cross the goal line, there you go. 4 times it happened last week. 4 times Romo converted. John Parker Romo. Maybe we just call him Promo for the Parker Romo. Just call him Promo. I'm going to call him Promo. I'm starting it right now. Promo. Get him. He's doing well. He's going to keep doing well as long as he needs to. Ryan Wright, his 2 punts for 72 yards. Yeah, it was a little low, but one of those was a, really short punt. Just because of where we were, it was kind of far for a field goal. We didn't need to try it. Just, get it up there, take off a few seconds, pin the defense back. Not worry about it. But yeah, it's nice to see the 2 punts. And again, that goes back to time of possession and how well the offense on the ground ran and the defense ran. All right. So the next opponent, as we approach, this is the final AFC South matchup of the year. That's why the title for the episode, as you might have seen it. Bring out your brooms. We're going to sweep the AFC South this week. Titans and the Vikings will face off for the 15th time in history. Minnesota's won 6 of the last 8. And fun fact for you to learn today, the first time these two teams played in 1974, Minnesota Vikings won 51-10. Not the highest point total between the two teams, but 1974 scored 51 points. That's kind of crazy. So yes, 51-10, the first time these two teams played, when the Titans were the Houston Oilers at that time. But just thought I'd throw that out there. The Titans lost their last game to the Chargers, 27-17. Their point differential went down even more. They are now at minus 83 point differential on the season. For those of you just tuning in or might not know, point differential determines how many points you score against the points you allow. Negative point differential means you're allowing more points. Negative 83 points. It's a little crazy, but I'll get into that a little bit more. Mac Jones, not Mac Jones. Will Levis. That's what I forgot to do. Will Levis, the quarterback for the Titans. Last week, 2 passing touchdowns, no interceptions. Kind of turned it around a little bit, maybe it feels like, since he had that injury stint and starting off the season really rough. He's, obviously one less pass catcher. Hopkins is no longer with the team, but he kind of maybe seems like maybe last week was a fluke. Maybe he is just not that great, or maybe he's coming around. He's got a guy who's probably going to throw for a little more than 200 yards in any game. He could get close to 250 against the Vikings, who give up a lot of passing yards, but not super worried about it. He'll make mistakes. He was also sacked 7 times. The Titans let their quarterback get sacked 7 times last week. Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, the running backs, they kind of did a split last week. Pollard had 9 carries for 44. Spears had 7 carries for 47. So about the same, a little more efficiency on the Spears side, but he's more of a spell them, when he needs some rest. And also they trailed most of that game, and at the end, you're throwing guys out there you're not going to try and get your best players hurt. But the other thing about Tony Pollard, who the former Cowboys running back, has looked a bit stronger than he used to this year. He's actually got 3.8 yards after contact. So as soon as he gets touched by a defensive player, he's averaging 3.8 yards after that. 3rd highest in the league, which is impressive. He's always been more of a speedy burst guy, but he's making yards after the hit. So that's something to watch for. He caught 4 passes as well last week. So they're not afraid to pass to their running backs. Pollard caught 4. Spears caught 3. Then you got Calvin Ridley on the outside, the clear number 1 wide receiver. 9 targets, caught 5 of them for 84 yards, 2 scores. Both of those touchdowns from Levis last week. Then you have Westbrook Akine. He scored in 4 straight games before last week. Just being out there, he's also averaging 12 yards a catch on the season. So he's an adequate wide receiver in the NFL. He's had his flashes. He's had his moments. Ridley's the more talented, the more elite player. He's a little bit older. He's still really good. He could cause some problems for the Vikings offense from their offensive side of the ball against the Vikings defense. Because like I said, the Vikings are still one of the top. I think they're 4th in total receiving yards allowed per game. Then you got their tight end, Chig Okonkwo. He not super involved, a little more involved over the last few weeks. Still, he's averaging 11.3 yards per reception, which is really good for a tight end. He's the kind of guy who can make some plays. He's a little more of an athletic speed guy for a tight end. But it was 11.3 yards per carry in the 3 games before last week, where he only caught 1 catch for 14 yards. So actually, his the yardage for reception is up there a little bit. Just some of the offensive names to go through. Let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball really quick for the Titans. They didn't have any sacks last week. The best thing that their defensive, they recovered a fumble. It was pretty mundane for them last week, but they are a sneaky good defense. They've given up 23 touchdowns on the year, 13 through the air and 10 on the ground. They're both kind of in the middle of the pack, but when you count them together compared to other teams, they're actually outside the top 20 in most touchdowns allowed on defense. There's a lot of teams that are up in the high 20s, even in the low 30s. I went through and counted them up, and I wish I would have pulled all that together in a little spreadsheet or something to put up here, but I didn't. So, but yeah, the touchdown scoring is not really high against Tennessee, and that's probably also because of the fact that they've given up 1,543 passing yards, fewest on the year. They've given up 6.2 yards per pass, second fewest, 9.6 yards per reception, second fewest, and the 10th fewest yards per carry at 4.3. It's a sneaky good defense with a lot of solid playmakers on it. And I'll touch on a few of them right here, like we usually do. We'll go with Harold Landry. He's a linebacker. He's had 10 quarterback hits this year, 5 sacks. And in the last 2 seasons, he's had 10.5 and 12 sacks. Amani Hooker, another guy to watch out for. 3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles. Gets around. He's currently, I think he's like 1 or 2 third on the team in tackles. He's a secondary guy. Park Center, Minnesota native, so good for you. Go do good things in other weeks, Amani. Not kidding. Please don't make us regret this. Quandre Diggs, another one I want to talk about. He's been in the league for I think 10 seasons now. 3-time Pro Bowler, 15 interceptions across the last 4 seasons before this one. 2 out of the last 3 years before this one, he had over 90 tackles, and he's leading the team with 35 solo tackles. He gets around. He makes plays, and Darnold's going to have to be aware of where he is, and the other players are going to have to be aware of where he is. He could definitely disrupt things, whether it's as a linebacker, as an edge rusher, in coverage. He's got a lot of ability to do a lot of different things. Fairly light injury report as we come closer to the end of the episode here. The injury report, the only person on the injury report for the Vikings is Gabriel Murphy. He still hasn't returned yet. Well, maybe we'll see his debut next week. I don't know. We'll see. He did have, I think he practiced each of the last 3 days, so that's promising. Like I said, he'll just be more of a depth piece just to give other players a little extra time to rest, take a play or 2 off. On the other side of the ball for the Titans, Ladarius Sneed, he's still out. But if there's any team who can afford injuries in the secondary and still be really solid, it's Tennessee. So Sneed being out is not a huge deal for them. They are also missing an offensive tackle, Leroy Watson. It's either Leroy or Leroy. I didn't check. But he is an offensive tackle. He started the 4 games he's played this year. He will not play this week. Other than that, nothing really to talk about on the injury front. Betting-wise, sports betting football, Vikings, the money line, -250. It's +200 for Tennessee. I think you're betting fool's gold if you're picking Tennessee this week. I don't think they're going to win. I'm taking the Vikings. The spread is -6 in favor of Minnesota. I would actually take the +6 from Tennessee. I think it's going to end up score-wise being closer game. And, it could be like 3, 4, 5-point game or something. I don't think the Vikings win by a touchdown. I think they win by less than a touchdown. Over-under's 39.5. I'm going to go under. There have been, I know I had the number here a little bit ago, and I totally forgot it. But in previous games, I think Tennessee has had the under in, last week there was an under. So that's that. So result, low scoring overall. I don't think realistically, it's not going to be as close as the score says. The Vikings are going to get out. They're going to take their lead, and they're just going to hold on to it. It could be we could end up 20-17 or something. It's what it could be. So under 39.5. I think the betting money on the over-under right now is people are siding on the over. I think 55% of people have bet on the over as opposed to 45 the other side. But yes, again, I'm taking the under on that one. Anytime touchdown, put it on Aaron Jones, multifaceted. Granted, the Titans don't give up a lot of yards to running backs on the pass, but Jones is still an elite player who can succeed as a pass catcher and as a running back. So I'm not worried about that. And I think he's got the best chance to score this week for Minnesota. The fantasy outlook for the week. Let's talk Jefferson, start him. Jones, start him. Hawkinson, got to give him that line if you can. If you got Romo as a kicker, start him. And the defense, like I said, Titans gave up 7 sacks last week. Why couldn't they give up 7 more again this week? That's what you want in fantasy, sacks and interceptions. And also a low-scoring game might be, beneficial if you're in a kind of system that scores based on points allowed per game. Tennessee side of the ball, really you got to start him. Pollard, it might be rough, but just the fact that he's doing so well after contact, he's the clear number 1 guy there. As long as the game doesn't get away from them, as long as it's still close, he'll still get his touches, he'll still get his carries and a few passes. So I think you can start him with some confidence. Just don't expect a huge day from Pollard. This is for the rest of the guys you might want to consider. Addison, for sure. Again, his production's been not great recently, and the Titans, again, solid defense. I wouldn't start him if I didn't have to. Akers, I don't want to, but, I know personally I have a situation where I'm 50-50. I might be starting him in one league this week. This is just how it is with injuries and bye weeks. Josh Oliver, if you're playing a multi-tight end league or a tight end premium league, or even if you're missing guys like McBride, Otten, Jatavian Sanders, who are all on bye this week, you might not have a lot of other options. You could throw a dart at him. Maybe he gets another 4 catches for 40, 50 yards, and it's an okay day. Maybe he scores a touchdown. I don't know. Darnold also put a dart throw on for pretty much most of the reasons that we listed already. It's just not a high ceiling passing week for Minnesota this week. Tennessee side of the ball, Levis, dart throw. Yeah, he could throw 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Or he could throw for 85 yards and complete less than half his passes and throw under, 2 or 3 interceptions. I don't know, but the yardage possibility is there, so he might be worth a shot if you are in desperate need. Nick Westbrook-Akine, another dart throw guy. He's had success in the past. He's pretty much the secondary pass catcher over there. Maybe you could argue him for Okonkwo. I don't like having to start either of them, but you could probably do worse. And then the defense for Tennessee is probably my strongest Tennessee dart throw of the week, just because it could be a low-scoring game, and they could get an interception or 2. They could get a couple of sacks. It might be worth it, but who knows? We'll find out. We'll find out on Sunday. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all the views, comments, everything, support. Thank you again for watching. I hope you guys all have a great weekend. And remember, let's get one more. Let's make it 8. We're almost there. The season's starting to ramp up. We're halfway through. Let's just lock it down. Let's catch it. Let's keep in stride with the Lions and get another win out of it. In the meantime, Skol, everybody. We'll see you next time on Vikings Uncovered. This is the FF